Hello everyone, Masoneer here. This is going to be a more detailed video tour of my Mars base. So let's get right into it. This is my hydroponics. And let me just cycle this airlock where I go through some of this stuff. We have 100 plants in hydroponics, or probably more than 100 plants. But this system can be, everything in here can grow indefinitely. We have logic to control the CO2 levels, the O2 levels, the nitrogen levels, all of that. And since we're on Mars and we're collecting Martian atmosphere, we essentially have limitless CO2. So we can just leave this growing at all times. Alright, so this should be done, and I can show you the inside. Just cycle this airlock. So how climate control works in here is we have radiators all along the sides of the top and bottom of hydroponics. These radiators are on something I like to call the neutral loop. And the way that works is we have a neutral pollutants tank, or it's about 34 degrees here, and we take those pollutants and we either cool them down or heat them up. And then we use that cold or hot gas to heat or cool pollutants. Right here we have a 2-grid room with 100 C pollutants in it. And if hydroponics is ever too cold, it uses this pressure regulator to pump in hot pollutants into this neutral line. This is actually a T-section. It's not a straight piece of pipe. So this pressure regulator is logic controlled to add hot if hydroponics gets too cold, and this pressure regulator is logic controlled to add cold if hydroponics gets too hot. So we have cold pollutants on this side that's being cooled by, we're actually using the cold CO2 from the Martian atmosphere to mix with our pollutants to cool it down. Next we have volume pumps on each one of these tanks here. And those are just fill lines that come through this access tunnel from main atmospherics. Then we have logic controlled volume pumps. We have nitrogen, CO2, and oxygen, and those will all keep the gas levels between 1% or 2%. We also have our hydroponics tray pressure regulator here, and we have a back pressure regulator on the neutral loop so that doesn't get too much pressure. These pressure regulators here are just fill lines. One is to fill the hot loop, and one is to fill the cold loop. We also have pressure regulators here for our soup and canister lines for oxygen and nitrogen. We have just a regular pressure regulator and a back pressure regulator, both set at 9,000. This yellow pipe goes back into waste. So essentially we're just keeping this pipe at 9,000 exactly, with both of these set at the same thing. Here we have 4 volume pumps. That's just used for the CO2 scrubbing airlock. And I'll show you that there in a minute. We have 60% nitrogen, 10% CO2, and 31% oxygen. We also have some pollutants and a little bit of water. Here we have a chicken hatchery. You can just plop an egg on the ground and a chicken will hatch in a few minutes. This door is set to auto close behind you so the chickens can't get out. Here we have our control room for hydroponics. This room is just filled with some dials where we can control the heat, the pressure, and the gas makeup of hydroponics and change it anytime we want. Here we have some canister fill stations and a waste tank evacuator station, as well as 4 suit storages, some batteries, and This air scrubber and air conditioner are really just kind of used as furniture here. They can be used as a backup system in case of anything fails, but I don't think that's likely to happen. Hang on, I gotta switch this to close. There we go. Now we should be able to travel this way. Close this door behind us, and then we'll scrub out any CO2 that just escaped into this airlock. Once that reaches 99.5, this door will unlock. So, if you didn't watch my previous video, the purpose of this airlock isn't really an airlock per se, it's more to scrub out CO2. So that you can actually go through here without a spacesuit. So here we have the rest of the base. We have our battery bank here. I think there's like 30 something batteries. Can't even quite remember. I'm gonna cycle this airlock. This is our main airlock. It's kind of gigantic, to say the least. We'll see that in a minute. We have our base nitrogen tank here, and our base oxygen tank here. And up above we have a control room for the base. It's completely separate from hydroponics. Up above we also have dials to control the temperature of the base, the pressure, the nitrogen and oxygen. We're running a 71% nitrogen, 29% mix. Our batteries are at 72%. We're actually using about 38 kilowatts of power right now. It's nighttime, so obviously we're not making any power, but we do have backup power generation. If that falls below 60%, I think it goes back up to 70. It is 22C in here and at 95 kPa. These active vents, the red active vents throughout the base, are logic controlled in every single room to actually suck out pressure if it gets above 100, and they'll suck it out until it reaches about 99. And then the purple vents that run throughout the base are actually just a passive vent line that shares atmosphere throughout the base as well as pressurizes everything. Those are connected through this access tunnel down here. I'll show you this real quick. So this is actually how the base is heated, just with these heaters. It's not very good to heat the base with just these tiny heaters, but a base this size with this many windows on top actually doesn't need any heating. The sun heats it up plenty. We more have to worry about cooling. This is sort of just a backup, just in case. We have a back pressure regulator and pressure regulator for the oxygen and the canister and suit lines, is what I mean to say. This line is for the oxygen suit and canister fill line, and this is for the nitrogen. We have a backup pressure regulator that goes into waste. And this is connected to the nitrogen tank, and this volume pump here is logic controlled to turn on to keep nitrogen levels within 1%. The same goes for this oxygen. They both connect to the purple line, and the purple line in the base is mixed gas, so that's our nitrogen oxygen mix. So I'll go into a little more detail about manufacturing. If you saw my short video tour, you'll know a little about this, but this is essentially how it works. We have 2 fabricators, 3 auto lathes, 2 pipe benders, 2 electronics printers, and 1 tool manufacturer. And each machine has its own stacker, except for the tool manufacturer, because we really don't need it there. And each stacker feeds into a common chute system. The common chute system then outputs over here, so you can collect all your items in one little fenced off area. The fabricator, or the computer, connects to 2 fabricators, and we can actually turn everything off in manufacturing with this control switch. Just gonna close that for now. Here we have our storage room, our warehouse, if you will. And then we have a recycling center as well. We put anything we want into the sorter, and it sends only recyclable stuff to here. It used to, no, it still does take out reagent mix, and then it takes out reagent mix and sends it directly to the centrifuge. That is actually kind of unnecessary now because they made it so the recycler can handle reagent mix without destroying it. So this, after it goes to the centrifuge, it actually gets sent off to the sorting and smelting room. And this here is just a staircase. There's a staircase that goes up top just in case you don't have your suit on. Here we have crew quarters. If you saw my last video, you would have seen a little bit of this. We have 6 rooms here that are 3 by 2 by 2 tall. Purple room, pink room, yellow room, orange room, red, and blue. The blue room is obviously the master because it's got its own little balcony type thing. Here we have our main airlock, and it has 4 doors. Now, the way you do more than 2 doors with an airlock is you have to set one set of doors to mimic the other set. So essentially this door mimics whatever this door does, and this door mimics whatever that door does. Continuing on, we have 2 more rooms up here. I'm going to cycle this airlock while we wait. We have 2 more rooms here, and we actually have windows that you can see outside into the airlock tunnel. I'll show you medbay real quick. There's not much going on in medbay, but I thought it turned out pretty good. We have 6 cryo tubes and 2 sleepers, some lockers, and some chairs. I might add more to this if they add more medical parts, but for now, this is how it works. Oh, also, if you're wondering, the base is cooled by all of these radiators that go throughout the top of the base. We use cold pollutants to cool the base, and that's all logic controlled. I should actually show you that real quick, because that is a pretty important system. This base creates a lot of heat just from the sunlight. So right now it's actually pumping in... No, this is actually taking pressure out of the neutral line, whereas this puts cold into the neutral line, and that just shut off. So this pipe here is logic controlled, or temperature logic controlled, to keep the base at a certain temp, and we can change that with those dials up here inside this control room. And we have basically limitless cold pollutants because we use the cold CO2 that's limitless on Mars, and we mix it with our pollutants and then separate it back out. So we always have cold gas to cool the base. So I think the last thing, or one of the last things we have to look at, is the smelting and sorting room. Down here we have our sorting room, and up top we have our smelting room. Outside we have a place where we can just input our mining belts, and it takes all of the ores out of the mining belts, and then it comes through here. This is a reject sorter, and this essentially rejects anything that isn't the 7 smeltable ores to go under the stairs here, and we can pick that up later. But anything is the 7 smeltable ores gets evenly distributed through these 7 sorters, and then they get sent to these 8 automated arc furnaces up top. Once everything is smelted, they get sent through this sorting system where each different ingot is stacked. So we have silicon, gold, copper, iron, nickel, lead, and silver. Up top we also have our CO2, our pure CO2 furnace, That just uses preheated gas to smelt anything that we need to. I go into more detail about that in one of my other videos. Okay, and lastly we have our outside area. We have our airlock tunnel on this side, and then on the other side. This is what I was talking about a moment ago, with where we import the belts to sort and smelt all of our ores. You can just put belts in here filled with ores. It'll take them out in that mini sorting room down below. I'll show you that in a second. And then all the belts will get sent back up through there. Now here is the mini sorting room. This handles all the ores through this stacker, sends the belts back with this stacker, and then with this sorter. Then this sorter takes any ices out and sends them to this furnace here. And this furnace, all the pressure is sucked out with this filtration unit. And that gets sent off to main atmospherics. Now if you're wondering what this giant flat area here is, this is actually where our staging area was at the start of the base. It's now cleared off. We might put a spaceship here or something else later on, but for now it's just empty space. Over here we have our backup power generation. We have two transformers. All the power generation from the coal generator, the gas generator, and the solar panels goes through these two transformers before it heads off to the battery room. But yeah, this is all automated. We have cold fuel mix here that's used whenever the base gets below 60% power. And we can actually control that right here. We can, between 60 and 70 is when these will switch on. So if I didn't mention this already, this is our Martian atmosphere collection tower. We have 28 active vents on here, just sucking in Martian air. And at the very top we have a beacon and 4 LED displays. This is just used for finding your way back to the base at night. You really don't even need the beacon unless you travel very far away from the base. Okay, up here we have our 6 main gas storage, and then we have some displays that show you the stats on all of those. We also have 6 filling stations for the different gases, and a waste tank evacuator station. Down below, I can't remember if I showed this in this video or not, but we're going to do it again just in case. This is our atmospheric collection, this is our access tunnel for main atmospherics. And we have blow-off valves, logic-controlled volume pump blow-off valves for every single gas, so that if pressure gets too high in a tank, when it hits 55 MPa, it'll release 1 MPa of pressure. Over here, this is how we get our cold pollutants. Eventually, our pollutants would warm over time from all the heat the base is creating, even though we have like a lot of pollutants. So this system just mixes the limitless supply of cold CO2 with pollutants, and then filters it back out, so it keeps the pollutants cold. And it works really, really well. Okay, I believe that is a full video tour. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm trying to remember if I did or not. I don't think that I did. So if you enjoyed this video, you can download this base on the workshop. It'll be available today. And if you'd like to know how I did these things, how I built all this, you can actually watch my VODs on Twitch. I'll leave a link for both of those down in the description. Okay guys, thanks for watching.